Greetings and welcome to our presentation with Christian Bruey from PureCycle to talk about recycling at the Jacksonville Jaguars and TIA field. This is part of our plastic reduction program, which is sponsored by NOAA. This event, as many of you probably know, was rescheduled from Hurricane Ian, so I'm glad that you could join. We'll have a fairly short program tonight. And then right after the program, we will raffle off a pair of home tickets to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But before we introduce our speaker, I want to introduce the director of the Institute of Environmental Research and Education, Dr. Erin Largo-White.
Hi, thanks, James. As James said, this talk today is part of a larger discussion that we're having at UNF to reduce single-use plastic. This is being guided by our NOAA-funded research study. So I'm Erin Largo-White. I'm a professor in the Department of Public Health, and I'm the director of IRE. And I'm one of the co-principal investigators for the NOAA research project, along with my UNF partner, Dr. Heather Truelove, who's here, professor in the Department of Psychology. Dr. Truelove and I, along with our team at Eckerd College, which is comprised of faculty in coastal biology, environmental science, and we actually had some computer science because our project involved lots of IT related stuff too. We all work together on this project, and it's a 2-year, basically what it is, it's a 2-year behavior change project, again, funded by NOAA Marine Debris Program. So essentially we're working to reduce single-use plastic consumption and foster long-term pro-environmental behaviors among undergraduates in coastal universities, UNF and Eckerd College down on the Gulf Coast. Ultimately, the goal is to reduce a generation of marine debris in those areas over time. So over the last 2 years, this project has actually been a little bit longer than 2 years because we had some COVID delays, but over the last 2 years, we've been integrating plastic reduction challenges curriculum, so in our courses, and education and outreach initiatives to increase awareness, affect attitudes and beliefs, and encourage behavior change among the members of both of our campus communities regarding reducing their plastic consumption. So this discussion today is part of that education and outreach effort. We have a website, as I'm sure James will share it at the end, but we have a website, unf.edu/environment. And if you click on, if you're there in the environment with UNF, you will see we have research, and one of the tabs in research is our reduce single use. It's our plastic project, and you'll find all of our seminars and a lot of information there. So I'd like to thank James Taylor for organizing the single-use plastic outreach and education initiatives for the NOAA project, this seminar and all the seminars before this. And a very warm welcome to our speaker today. We are really excited to learn from you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here. I grew up in Keystone Heights, Florida, so about 45 minutes from Jacksonville. So I'm well aware of the Jacksonville area, the UNF campus, had plenty of friends that went to UNF, and everything that you guys are doing is great, because PureCycle Technologies, where I now work, is also trying to reduce single-use plastics. We are trying to get people to drink from polypropylene cups or reusable water bottles because of the technology that we have to recycle polypropylene plastic. And we do also have a Pure Zero program that I head up. We did partner with the Jaguars. I think that's kind of where some of the synergies were created to start. But let me share our screen. I'd love to kind of detail our technology, how it was born. And then as we go and you learn more about that, I can answer some questions. Full disclosure, not an engineer. Our technology was developed by some very smart people. If you have a question that is about all of the science of our technology, I will write it down. I will go to our engineers and I will try and get that answered for you down the line. But my background is in television and news and sports, and now I'm leading this Pure Zero program for us here at PureCycle Technologies. But let me share our screen and I'll dive into what PureCycle is, what we do, and a little bit about how we do it and how we plan to continue to grow to help our environment. So we like to think that we are revolutionizing plastics recycling, and I think we truly are with our technology. It was developed by Procter & Gamble a handful of years ago. If you're not familiar with Procter & Gamble, they create many of the products that you may use on a daily basis. The tops of your Tide bottles are polypropylene. Your razor blade handles are polypropylene. Yogurt cups in your fridge are polypropylene. It's one of the most used plastics in the world and one of the least recycled. And that's what Procter & Gamble found, is that polypropylene plastic was the #1 most used plastic in their products. The issue was they wanted to use recycled plastic in their products, but the only way that you could get polypropylene plastic recycled, the resin was gray or black and it smelled really bad. So they set out to find a solution for this, and they did. Dr. John Lehman came up with our technology, and then we have been tasked with scaling it up to help the world. So here's the beauty shot right here, because what you see there on the left, that black gray looking clumps in that jar, that is actually old polypropylene carpet, and carpet backing is polypropylene. And then on the right side, once it went through our system, you can see that it is a clear plastic resin that can honestly be turned into anything. I was going to ask a question, maybe a little trivia. What number is polypropylene? But as you can see, it's up there on your screen. It is plastic number 5. If you aren't aware yet, they're classified. Plastics are classified 1 through 7. Your water bottles your soda bottles are going to be number 1. Milk jugs are number 2. And once again, polypropylene plastic is number 5. I find myself now looking at the bottom of every piece of plastic that I come in contact with to try and figure out what number it is and possibly what the best way to recycle it is. So it's sort of a 6 to 7 step process. You see it there on the bottom of your screen: melting and filtering, extraction, mixing and settling, more filtering, purification, separation, then extruding and pelletizing is what you see there on the bottom of your screen. That's the pellets. We like to say that we're just producing pellets, we're spitting them out, and eventually those will be in products across the world as a recycled resin. So simply put, for the non-engineers like myself, we collect, sort, and shred the recycled plastic, we purify it, and then we produce the pellets. So this is another look at the process in a more, I guess, picturesque form as it goes from the gray or black pellets to the clear clear pellets there on the right side of your screen. I think the most important part to stress on this slide is there are no chemical reactions that we are using in our process. So we are not breaking down the polymer chain. So all plastics are polymers. So if you heard of chemical recycling, there's mechanical recycling. When you're chemically recycling, that polymer chain is going to be broken down. And over time, if it's done over and over again, you're not going to have the same plastic resin. With ours, that's not the case. I believe we've run our process 8 times on the polypropylene, and we've seen no breakdown of that polymer chain. And that gets back to what we were talking about, single use. If it can't be done over and over and over again, then it is single use. So we feel like we're truly achieving circularity, and we are able to do our process over and over again. So this is our plan. As you see here at the top, Ironton, that's in Ohio, the southeast corner of Ohio, kind of right there on the border of West Virginia and Kentucky. That will be our first plant. The plan is to have that open at the end of this year and then ramp up to over 100 million pounds of our recycled resin coming out towards the end of Q3 of 2023. We have also broken ground on a recycling plant in Augusta, Georgia, that will have the ability to have multiple lines. As you can see there, end of 2023 into 2024, those first 2 lines we hope to have open in Augusta, multiple more lines, and you can see there that would get us to 367 plus the 107 for the amount of capacity that we can spit out of that plastic resin. And we did just announce a partnership in South Korea. We're looking for a site in Europe. So we are truly trying to help cure the world's plastics problem with our technology. Any questions on what I've gone over so far? No. So this is here in the US. As I mentioned, we have our Augusta plant that we've broken ground on up in Ironton, Ohio. will be our first plant. We also have what we call prep facilities. These are pre-processing facilities. And what they do is just sort the plastics. So we would receive in a bale of plastics that could be 1 through 7. It could be 3 through 7. And we have the technology in these sorting facilities here in Central Florida. And then also we're set to open one in 2023 in Denver, Pennsylvania, where they have these optical sorters that just know what is number 1 plastic versus number 2 versus 3 versus 4 versus 5 versus 6. And they go through this system, and then we just get large kind of containers that are filled with 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. Obviously, the 5s will go to our plant in Ironton. Eventually, they'll go to our plant in Augusta, Georgia. And then the other numbers will go to the folks who can recycle the 1s and the 2s and the other numbers throughout. So what we're looking for right off the bat is that target feedstock, as we call it, to feed our Ironton plant. And then in Augusta, we'll be able to take in maybe some of the lower polypropylene percentage yield streams, which that's a big word even for me, working in this industry. But what that means is your car bumper is primarily polypropylene plastic, but there's a lot of other stuff that's in that as well. So we hope to be able to take some of those polypropylene content that may not be 100% or even 90% polypropylene into that plant in Augusta and be able to recycle that there. So this is what the facility looks like in Ironton. This is our crown jewel at the moment. This is a rendering of what it will look like eventually. But I want to point out what you see there on next to the number 1. That is our feedstock evaluation unit. That's where the technology that was created by Procter & Gamble was scaled up on maybe a tabletop, has then been turned into our pilot plant inside of that building there. I was able to tour it about a month after I was on the job, and it is just incredible to see, even on that size scale, what they are able to do. And once again, so they will take what's inside number 1 and scale it up to what you see there on the screen in this rendering. Over number 2 is going to be where we just store a lot of the feedstock that we get in from all over the Midwest and really honestly from down here in Florida as well. They're able to receive that all in there. And then what I mentioned about the processing aspects are in some of these other buildings that you see, but there's silos, there's these modular units where the magic happens, so to speak. Here is an actual shot of what it looks like maybe in the last month or so. But we have, the yellow silos that you see there in the back is where we will hold a lot of that flaked plastic before it goes through the system. And then on the right side where you see those silver silos is where we will be holding that pure plastic resin. And there's train tracks you may be able to see there on the right side of your screen right over here. So we'll have those trains that'll come in and pick up that plastic resin that will then go off to companies like L'Oreal. We will be working with them, and so your makeup products may soon have PureCycle resin in them middle to late next year. So that's pretty amazing to think about, that something maybe you threw in the recycle bin at a Jaguars game could then be in your makeup container in about a year or so.
Christian, if you want to entertain a question, Brazos asked in the chat, since Ironton is not yet operational, are you collecting number 5 and storing it or not yet?
Yes, so I will go back to that. If I can go back here on my screen, I think I clicked off of it. Yeah, so where that number 2 there, that is where we are storing everything that we are collecting at the moment. We also have partners, say with the Jaguars, our recycling center partners are also storing that number 5, baling it and holding it for us until we can get that plant fully operational. I will say that we can run stuff through that feedstock evaluation unit. It may not look large here in the grand scale of this entire place, but I will tell you that number 1 building is very large, and we are already recycling some of that number 5 that we're getting in from the Jaguars or our partners at the Bengals and the Browns as well. So thanks for that question, Brazimus. So this is the inside of one of the pre-processing plants, the one that we actually have there on site in Ironton. This is similar to what you may see if you went to a recycling center in Jacksonville that takes in a lot of recyclables. This is just probably 3 times the scale. So you see that bale of plastic there on the bottom. It would go through something that would break open that bale. It would then be shredded, go up, be rinsed off, and then go through the entire process of being sorted, the 1s, the 2s from the 3s, 4s, and 5s and whatnot, and then would come out into a container, and then it would get baled, and the 5s would then head over to our system to be recycled. So here's what we currently buy. So curbside, I don't know the rules in Jacksonville, but I am allowed to put my number 5 plastics curbside here in Orlando. So we have partners that we work with to get those number 5 curbside bales from what you would just roll out to the side end of your driveway. We're also picking up those 1 through 7 bales. 3 through 7 bales are also sold, and super sacks are one of these pure polypropylene items, like I was mentioning, that are that kind of 90 to 100% polypropylene. And those are those large white construction bags you might see out in front of a house that's getting flipped or whatnot. So that is woven polypropylene, but it is pure polypropylene, and one of the other things that we are able to recycle. Pill vials, one of those, and then event recyclables you see there at the bottom kind of transitions us perfectly into the Pure Zero program that we have with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we are still in that in the time when we're looking for feedstock. We're figuring out, hey, this is polypropylene. The windscreens at some tennis courts is polypropylene. So I had a meeting with the USTA National Center here just the other day about seeing if those are polypropylene. Political signs, as we are about a week or so away, 2 weeks away from the midterm elections, we're working with Orange, Volusia, and Seminole County to recycle their political signs. So that's going to be about 10,000 pounds worth of polypropylene that may have been going into the landfill. And so if there's anyone that wants to take some initiative, see what's going on there in Duval County, we can recycle those. And I like to say that our resin is bipartisan. So your Governor DeSantis sign here in 2022 could be a Joe Biden sign in 2024. That leads me to our Pure Zero program. Once again, that is what we have with the Jaguars, the Bengals, and with the Cleveland Browns. Once again, it's regionally based because of where our facilities are located. And with Ironton being in Ohio, the Bengals and Browns made sense. With our Orange County pre-processing facility, the Jaguars were a great opportunity for us there. So the problem, as you guys probably know, if you've sat in on anything, you've read anything, we have a linear economy when it comes to plastic. We're using up our fossil fuels to make the plastics, then we just dispose of them. They end up in landfills or waterways. So the solution to our current linear economy is a circular economy, and circularity is that buzzword in recycling, and it's kind of that guiding light for us as well. So that's what we want to achieve with our polypropylene recycling. And we realize that there's a lot of waste created at stadiums. There's a lot of polypropylene that's inside of stadiums, whether it's the souvenir cup that you may get at a Jaguars game that has Trevor Lawrence on the side, or if it's the clamshell food tray that you get your burger or hot dog in. A lot of times those are polypropylene, and we are working with the stadiums to get those and complete the circle and get you a stadium cup in a couple of years or a year from now that is made from PureCycle resin. Once again, I can't show it enough. This is the beauty of our technology. The past is that gray or black plastic resin that you could really only make your flower pots or trash cans out of, and now we can make anything. So these are our stadium cups. They get shredded down, go through our process, come out as this. And these are actually some things we've worked with Milliken to make, some Tupperware containers, shampoo bottles, tops for detergent bottles, but obviously the opportunities are endless once we get the plant in Ironton full go here at the end of the year, and then Augusta and Europe and South Korea and elsewhere. So the Pure Zero program, that's the PureCycle technology. The program is kind of us using our knowledge and our technology to work as a sustainability partner. So we've learned best practices, how to better recycle at a stadium, and we bring those to the Browns, to the Bengals, to the Jaguars to up their sustainability. What we found in a lot of stadiums is that you kind of have your bins there, and that's it. One of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that we've learned and we're trying to implement everywhere we go is, picking the stadium after the games with recycling in mind. More often than not, 70 to 80% of the trash in a stadium from a game is sitting right there in the bowl. So what we like to do is kind of be that first line of defense. That janitorial staff after the game is just picking up plastics and aluminum. So they are sorting, and we don't have to worry about any contamination. We don't have to worry about whether, John Doe had few too many beers and he threw his pizza box into our recycling bin. We understand, and the staff at the Jaguars, the Bengals, and the Browns knows, hey, I'm looking for my souvenir cup. I'm looking for those water bottles, those soda bottles, and those aluminum cans. Of course, we want to shout it from the rooftops what we're doing, because sustainability is a major piece of every company these days. And so we have our own PR company. The awareness for the campaign is big, because we also want you to know the next time you go to the Jaguars game that if you leave or you put your cup into the bin, you know what's actually happening with it. Another thing that we do with all of our partners is community events, cleanups, waste collection opportunities. I've seen that. I know your group at UNF has done some of these things, whether it's at the beach or throughout the Jacksonville area. So that's beautiful to see. And there it is. There's your UNF Osprey. This is kind of our three-step process for the Pure Zero program. It's at first walking the stadium, waste discovery and conversion. What is in the stadium that's being thrown in the bins, that's being thrown into the recycle bins? So is souvenir cups, beer cups, cocktail cups that may be in your suites or your lounges, those food trays, the clamshells that I mentioned, the signage that may be out in front for parking. As I mentioned, those corrugated plastic signs are polypropylene. So that's step one. And if you have cups that are maybe polyethylene or polystyrene, which are more likely than not going to get recycled, we'd love for those to be converted over to number 5 so we can up our level of recycling and sustainability. The next step is honestly, it's some very obvious things, but we found out that not a lot of folks, not a lot of stadiums, not a lot of venues are doing this. They don't have a recycle bin right next to their trash bin. So we as humans at times, we're lazy. We're going to throw our trash into the first receptacle that we come to. So that one-to-one, and this is even for your office spaces, that's extremely important. The tailgate lots is something we're continuing to work on with our partners. We'd love to see more of that. Using a blue or clear recycled bag in those recycle bins, so the janitorial staff knows when they pull that bag out, when it's full, they're taking the clear blue ones to the recycle dumpsters. The black ones are going to the trash dumpsters, so we have no mixed contamination there that can be an issue for our recycling centers on the back end. Of course, we're trying to educate with our back of house signage. And then we are that partner to handle or to work with your waste management hauler. With the Jaguars, it's Waste Pro. Other places, it's WM. In Ohio, Rumpke is a big waste hauler there. And then we work with them to get it weighed and sorted out so we can let you know just how much plastic, just how much aluminum, just how much cardboard you diverted from the landfill. So yeah, we'd love to be in the UNF arenas for they're a great basketball team, and we could better recycle there if the opportunity arises. These are some numbers that we throw in all of our presentations just to hammer home the point that I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but consumers want brands to be sustainable. Event attendees who are there want to be sustainable. And as you know, there are hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of waste created at every single sporting event. So it's important for us to be a part of this, and we're happy to be kind of using our technology to help these sports organizations. And honestly, we're trying to get into more office spaces, coffee shops, restaurants, hotels, because we understand that it can't just be the sports venues that are doing this. We need to do it on all fronts. So that's my presentation. I would love to answer any questions that you may have, or as you can see here, pretty easy, cbrewy@purecycle.com, or there's my cell phone. You can text me if you want as well. I'd love to discuss more how what I've learned in my short time here could help any organization, or honestly, any dorm room or any classroom.
Thank you so much. I do have a question I'll ask, but I'll definitely, just as you're doing your presentation, we'll have to connect you with our athletic department. And if you're up here, we can probably, take you to a game or something and see how that might work. But through your presentation, you kind of mentioned a lot of different materials, and I know you're saying like the 5 is what you're focused on, but are you collecting these other materials and doing something with them as well, or?
Yeah, so we have partners who recycle polyethylene, who recycle HDPE. So when we collect that, it's going to them to recycle those, because we don't have the technology. We are focused on number 5 plastics. So that when we collect that, it goes to a recycling center or recycling company that does recycle those types of plastics.
Excellent. And then I'll just have one more question, and if anybody else has one, they can put it in the chat, or they can probably unmute themselves if they have the ability. And so the pellet is the final product. Are you actually processing any actual like containers or cups, or are you using third parties?
That would be third parties. So once again, L'Oreal is under contract to buy the pellets on the back end, and then that will once again be in your makeup products. They will have recycled resin in those. Aptar is a large company that makes a lot of plastic products. So they're not a name brand, but they are making plastic products for name brand companies. So when you look and maybe you see something at the store, it may be made with PureCycle resin, or that Aptar is an Aptar product. So that's kind of how it goes. We are not making anything on our own. That's beyond our scope.
Excellent. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free. I think you should be able to unmute yourself. If not, you can kind of raise your hand. And
I know that was a lot, so I'm sorry I had to unplug from my other screen, so I couldn't see if anyone was nodding their head or wanted to hear more about one other thing. So I was on my little laptop here, so I apologize if I rambled for a little bit there.
No, you're perfect. Oh, we do have a message here from Ruby. Not a question, but a comment. And she said, what a wonderful presentation and progress in technology for number 5. Thank you for your time and what you do.
Well, thank you, Ruby. And I think that just back to the political sign thing, this is something that I've been tackling all day today with meetings with all the counties. It's something that we would love to expand beyond kind of the I-4 corridor that we have now. So the League of Women Voters is really helping us lead that. So I'm hoping maybe in 2024 at the next presidential election that, we'll be doing Duval County and really maybe the entire state of Florida, because these are signs that you really see year round, don't you? When you're driving down there, whether it's real estate or house for cash from some random company that's sitting there in the middle of a median. The beautiful thing is that we now have a way to recycle those. And it's really exciting to see our company and some folks just in the community, the League of Women Voters, taking the initiative to do something that can be so impactful.
Yeah, I think the signs is really interesting. And if you didn't know, you should use your collegiate partners too, because there's probably thousands of those that get put out on college campuses
That's a good point.
every day for all of it. Anyway, all right, since I didn't see any other questions, and with that, I thank everyone, and especially our speaker, a round of silent applause for him.
Can I